No, you don't need the.
I'm doing this my way. He a legend. 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 Welcome to the league. 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 Welcome to the league. To the league. To the league. To the league. To the league.
Welcome back to Summoner's Rift. Up first, we're in China, where World Elite is taking on the Rogue Warriors. Haro is back, but he looked horrible in his matchup against World Elite. Game 2 was close. There were 6 dragons taken. But World Elite engaged with an Ash Arrow for the decisive fight, easily beating Rogue Warriors and going 2-0. In our next match, Top Esports took on EDG without any hope, meaning they didn't have their AD carry, Hope. He was in the hospital, but Top Esports looked like they would need to go to the hospital before Jackie Love dives in with the KO ultimate on top and takes out EDG in Game 3. That was a close one. Next up in China, we have a Freak of Freaks against T1. A Freak of Freaks won Game 1, but T1 was the team who was real freaking naughty. 5 members of T1 go into the bot lane to gangbang a Freak of Freaks. Speaking of gangbangs, Fly was getting all the effort from Faker. After getting chain ganked throughout the game, T1 was able to take down a huge victory in Game 3. Oh look, it's Fly, flying into the hands of Olaf. In our second match in Korea, Team Dynamics took on Team Hanwha Life. Unfortunately, it was another fangless performance from Viper and Hanwha Life as they go in for a gank on Jace and Trundle before it gets turned by Dynamics. 3 members fall early, and this game wasn't even close. Up first, in Europe, we have Schalke and XL, who was excelling towards victory. Cadril jumped in on Volibear, turned off the turret, and secured a double kill. This game was never close. Up next, we had Vitality taking on Misfits. This one was a close one, but Cabochard got locked down by DOS, who was DDoSing his way to victory. Volibear jumped out of the fight, but still dies. Lee Sin shortly follows behind, and this is a close one. Misfits is low, but is still posturing for a fight. Forbidden and Kave want to go in. Vitality drops off towards Baron. Misfits follows short behind, face-checking the bush. Azir almost dies. Kave has to flash out, but it's Dan Dan! Wham bam, thank you ma'am, Dan Dan is the man. Ulting in and flashing, and securing a victory. G2 is looking to go for their 4th victory on the year. Kassadin and Kalista go in and get the first kill, pushing it to the limit. Limit dies, but Kalista dies shortly afterwards, and Wonder comes flying in on Akali, but is put in the dirt. It's a double kill for Zazie, and SK beats G2. In our 4th match, Mad Lions looks to take a bite out of Origin. Upset is upset that this game is even close. But Orome gets the first kill of the fight on Xerxes. Kaiser flashes in on Alistar in one of the best plays of the split, knocking up 2. Orianna ults 2, and 3 members die. GG, Mad Lions. In our last game of the day, Fnatic and Rogue face off for their chance at the top of the table. But Rogue, with Dragon Soul, looks to finish off the game, chipping away the inhibitors. Thresh hooks in onto Ornn, and the Ram God is looking to defend the base. but this one wasn't even close. After building up an early gold lead, several members die for Fnatic in the base. And Rogue finishes off the day in Europe atop the table. Hey, what's up everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and we have a bunch of games to go over. So I didn't do the highlights for North America. The games haven't been played yet, but I didn't want to wait to post the video because I know a lot of people want to get a head start on like doing research for tomorrow and everything. So quickly, let's go over the matches that we saw today, and then I'll get into the matches for tomorrow. So World Elite against Rogue Warriors. World Elite was dominant in Game 1, and then in Game 2, they actually were very close to losing. They probably should have lost that game, but Rogue Warriors is not a very good team, and they were unable to close out the match when they should have. Top Esports against EDG. I'm shocked that EDG was able to take a game off of Top Esports because they didn't have their starting AD carry Hope. They still put up a decent number of DraftKings points. So, you know, Top Esports, they score a lot of points. T1 against the Freak of Freaks. T1 lost Game 1 against the Freak of Freaks. A Freak of Freaks was probably way too popular compared to their actual winning chances. I think that T1 last season, they went either 2-1 or 1-2 against a Freak of Freaks in their first match and then won their second match 2-0. I did a little bit of extra research on that after my video, and I kind of realized that T1 against a team like a Freak of Freaks would probably have to get a lot more kills just because of playstyle reasons. So I had a decent amount of T1 last night, but I still didn't win. I had a good shot, but I needed Hanwha Life to pull off the upset. The next match, Hanwha Life against Dynamics, they didn't pull off the upset. And it's tough because Dynamics is the kind of team that I want to bet against, and Hanwha Life is the kind of team that I want to bet on. While they're still not considered a good team, but I think in the long run we're gonna find out that Viper and Lahens are able to carry at least some of these games against some of the middle of the table teams. So I'll probably reduce my exposure to them in the future, but I will have a few lineups out there that are trying to get on Hanwha Life early at low ownership. In Europe, we had XL against Schalke. I picked Schalke. I figured that the odds were probably wrong, but there wasn't enough value on Schalke to justify making a real life bet, so I just put together a DraftKings lineup with them, and it lost, not surprisingly. Misfits was actually a team that I had them in my main lineup, and then I swapped it from a primary stack to a secondary stack, so that kind of cost me today. They did end up winning that match, but that was a pretty easy one. A surprising loss for G2 against SK. This is a good thing, I think, in the long run for betting reasons, because SK is going to be a little overinflated. As they take on these other middle-of-the-table teams, I will be betting against SK quite regularly. OG against Mad Lions. I was on the Origin side. Mad Lions played really well today. They're both pretty good teams. I think they're both playoff teams. I just thought that Origin, based off of their match against G2, kind of showed that if they needed to get into a higher kill score game, they'd be able to, and if they needed to win through macro, they'd be able to. So the flexibility is kind of what I was interested in, and that's why I had Origin in my main team. I figured if you get a little bit ahead of Mad Lions, they're still probably going to try to fight you a decent amount, and that would give you pretty good upside for DraftKings reasons, but that did not materialize today. Last we had Fnatic against Rogue. I was on Fnatic. If they played again tomorrow, I would be on Fnatic. If they played the day after that, I would be on Fnatic. If they played every single day for 100 days in a row, I would be on Fnatic. Rogue, they won the game. Good for them. I don't think that this is going to be sustainable for them. They have some good performances in the early part of the split, but I don't think that they're a top 2 team in Europe when it's all said and done. Once we get into the best of 3s and best of 5s, their variance is going to be reduced, and I think that's going to benefit teams like G2 and Fnatic, who are more consistent over a long stretch of time. So then later tonight, we have FlyQuest against CLG and C9 against Team Liquid. I think that FlyQuest and C9 will both win. I think that this is an interesting spot to look for a value bet on Team Liquid because they are one of the only teams in North America who will be able to beat C9 at some point this year. So I don't hate that bet. So let's get the sheet for tomorrow set up. So we have Brazil. Let's do it in the order that they're going to be played. Throat's a little sore. So it should be something like this. So first up we have Sunning minus 588. That's a pretty huge line. Did I copy the wrong thing? I did not. Alright, so they're 375. DMO. I guess we can take a closer look at that. I'm going to get all the lines down first, and then we can go like lane by lane and that kind of stuff. FPX minus 303 against E-Star 225. That's it for China. Next up, we have Gen G at minus 667, taking on Mickey and Sol Heywan Prince. Then we have Damwon, one of my favorite teams right now. Is it DW? Yeah, DWG. Minus 250 against KT 186. So a lot of big numbers. I think this is an interesting time in the season because of start seeing value on underdogs, I hope. The more people get to watch, the more convinced they are that they know what's going on. And they start swinging pretty heavily towards one side or the other. SK is taking on Vitality. SK coming off of their victory over G2 is a smaller favorite than I would have thought. So not a lot of value here. Misfits 196 against XL at 150. That seems about right. It looks like in my opinion, I think it should be 65-30. I think it should be 65-35. So you're getting about even odds on Misfits, or about what you should expect to get on Misfits. So it's not looking like a good value spot right there. OG at minus 526 against Schalke at 348. 348. At 348, you kind of have to start thinking about it. I know they look bad, but all it takes is one game. I'll have to think about that as time goes on. Maybe we look at lane by lane, and I'll know how I feel about it. And then we have G2 against Fnatic. So I mean, this is going to be the best match of the day, I'm assuming. It's always very fun to watch two very good teams play against each other. I wish it was a best of three, but it's only a best of one. Very interesting match. Then we have Brazil. So I have been doing very well in Brazil with my picks. So I'm excited to pick some more games in Brazil. Pain Gaming, the Dallas Cowboys, basically of Brazil, against Prodigy. Then we have Kaboom against INTZ. Flamengo against Santos, and we're actually getting Santos as an underdog. Because it's funny. I think that the addition of Bvoy is probably like very good for them. I think Bvoy is better than most AD carries in Brazil, if not every AD carry in Brazil. The problem is that just because you have a Korean AD carry doesn't mean he's going to be the best player in the match. I think that the two best Koreans in this match are on Santos. I think Jackpot and Rainbow are both better than Bvoy. So everybody knows who I'm picking in that game. I'm a huge Santos fan right now. So take that one for free. If you want my other picks, you got to join Discord. You have to join Patreon, which gives you access to Discord. We've got a ton of people right now. I'm very, very happy with how the community's been growing. We have a ton of people always discussing what's going on, talking about their lineups, sweating lineups, tilting lineups. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And then we have a lot of people showing up to the streams and everything. So it is really cool how much people have been supporting the channel. So then we have 100 Thieves, EG, Team Liquid, and Golden Guardians. So 100 Thieves minus 156, EG minus 196, Team Liquid minus 400, Golden Guardians minus 204, CLG 121, EG 150, Dig 283, and Immortals, who fired their coach and their GM, are plus 154. Interesting. So let's do this. Let's take a look at what DraftKings is offering tomorrow. League of Legends. So there's a 2-game slate tonight in the LCS. I will not be playing that. I hate 2-game slates with all of my heart. The LPL and LCK. So let's go lane by lane. So for SP against Gen G, we should have the starting lineups before everything starts, but I still think it would be Ixu, Flawless, Mickey, Hybrid, and Secret. For Gen G, we have Rascal, Clid, BDD, Ruler, and their support is a question mark. So I think that people who build their lineups before we get the starting lineup will try to fade the support position. So that might go a little lower owned than everywhere else. I think Solhewan Prince, I want them to win, but I don't know if they really have the talent to face off against Gen G. So Rascal, let's see. I wouldn't go out of my way to get Rascal into a lineup. Ixu, same thing with Ixu. Ixu, he's looked pretty bad at different points in their games. Like, he seems like the kind of player who will go out of his way to convince his coaches that he wants to play a certain kind of champion, and then gets the champion, and then just gets destroyed. So that's not great. In the jungle, Clid against Flawless. I think Clid has a big advantage there. Big Clid. BDD against Mickey. I love Mickey, but BDD is a better player than Mickey. Ruler against Hybrid. Ruler's a good player. Hybrid is not in the same class as Ruler, I would say. Maybe he can change that, but I think most people would agree with that sentiment. Sunning against DMO. I think everyone knows who I'll pick in this game. Bin's been playing well. SFM has been playing very well, in my opinion, so far this season. Big fan of SFM. They were on a little bit of a losing streak, but then they were able to take out Rogue Warriors, which isn't very surprising. But playing against World Elite, so that's a good win against World Elite. Lost against JDG, not a big deal. Lost against IG, not a big deal. Lost against EDG. That one, I wish that they got that one, but I'm not going to go crazy about it. Angel against Twyla. I'm not a huge Angel fan, but he does have decent upside. Huan Feng will be extremely popular tomorrow, which is why they have him so highly priced. And whenever Huan Feng is popular, Sword Art is popular because he's one of the easiest players to throw into a lineup with him on a normal slate. On this slate, maybe not so much because they're such a big favorite. So that's something to watch out for. The 588. So it is interesting. Gen G is the biggest. Gen G is the biggest favorite on the slate, but they are the fourth most expensive team. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're between third and fourth most expensive in every role. I think Solhewan Prince is the kind of team that you can score against. There is the 2-0 upside. Maybe Gen G will go under owned tonight. FPX against E-Star. So E-Star in their most recent match lost 1-2 against RNG, but that was actually a pretty close match. They took out Xiaohu and put in Cryan, which I thought was actually, wait, no, was that matchup? Maybe it wasn't. Did RNG get 2-0'd? That was against V5, right? We don't have to look that up. Not important for tonight. So FPX is the second most expensive team on the slate. Not surprising at all. They do score a decent amount of fantasy points. Khan against Xiaobai. Khan's a better player. Tian against Wei. Tian's a better player. Duanbi against Fun. Duanbi is a better player. LWX and Crisp against Wink and Xiaoxi. I think that this is probably the closest matchup that we have in this game. And LWX has looked bad, like actually bad at times. Bad relative to his team. Like a team like FPX deserves better play from their bot lane. But when they lose, LWX often looks pretty horrible. So in their match against Invictus Gaming, for example, he was pretty horrible. Not only for DraftKings, but like his actual play in real life. Last match, Damwon Gaming against KT. So Noguri and Smeb. Smeb had a pretty good match their last time out. He actually put together some carry performances, which he didn't do in his first match when they played against Gen G. But Smeb looked good, so I think it will be a very volatile matchup in the top lane. Both top laners can go off. Noguri is considered by many to be like either the first or second best top laner in Korea, and definitely like top 3 for carry top laners. So he's always an interesting player to get exposure to. Canyon against Bono. I think Canyon is definitely better than Bono. But Canyon's not my favorite style of jungler. He's more of a tank player. Fairly certain about that. Showmaker against Kuro. Showmaker is one of my favorite players right now in Korea. I love his champion pool, which is basically every champion in the game, and he does go off in team fights. So he's definitely the primary carry for Damwon Gaming. Ghost and aiming in the bot lane, I don't see a huge advantage on either side. If there is an interesting play that I would want to get exposure to tonight on Damwon Gaming, it would be Beryl. I think that since they play a lot of Senna 80 carry, and that allows Beryl to play interesting support champions, including Pantheon. I think that's a very good combination, and yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch. So that's kind of what I hope they end up doing. Let's see what other slates we have tomorrow, not tonight at all. Strike that from your memory, please. So tomorrow at 11 a.m., we have a bunch of rinky-dink little baby contests in the LEC. If you would like larger contests, please tell DK Assist. Vitality against SK. So SK is the third most expensive. No, SK is the fifth most expensive. 5, 5, 5. So I think SK will probably go pretty low owned, even though they've been winning. I think that if you wanted to pick against SK for ownership reasons, I think you could definitely justify getting Vitality into your lineups. Because in best of ones, anything can happen in one game. So you really do want to get exposure to those kinds of outcomes. Misfits against Excel. No, this is Patrick. Is the least expensive AD carry on the slate. The problem is, I think if XL gets ahead of Misfits, I don't see Misfits being the kind of team that gives up a ton of kills. So, do what you want with that information. OG against SO4. I think if SO4 wins, I think that OG will probably contest everything. So if Schalke wins, I think Schalke scores a lot of points. I don't think it's likely that Schalke wins. So you really wouldn't want to get more than 1 to 3% of your lineups to have Schalke. So that means the only players who are going to try to do that are max entering players, which is fine, I guess. Mad Lions against Rogue. Interesting match. I think that both of these teams are high kill score teams. Mad Lions is like much more expensive, so I think that it would be pretty smart to get exposure to Rogue because you have the upside. So I want both sides of that match, and I also want both sides of the G2 Fnatic matchup. I think almost all of the ownership on the slate will be coming. I think almost every lineup will have some team from these two games back here. So if you really want to get different, stack 2 of these teams up here and then fade the last 2 games in at least a percentage of your lineup portfolio. And like I said, Hans Sama is a very interesting player. I think he's one of the most interesting DraftKings plays in LEC right now, because he has like extremely high upside. So LCS doesn't even have their contest out yet, which is fine. And will we get Brazil? I don't know if we're getting Brazil. But maybe they'll post it later tonight. So that is basically it. Let's get the picks back on the or not the picks. These are the lines again. So that is basically it for me tonight. I think I will probably do a stream later on, where we can do a deeper dive into a lot of these matchups. One thing I'm asking now is for people to kind of respond to which Esportscenter clips they like the best, because I want to put together like a top 10 or a top 5 of calls from this split so far. So either the plays that you thought were the best or the like one-liners that you thought were the funniest. Any kind of indication would be very helpful, because I don't want to go through and watch all of them again. I spend a lot of time editing them and stuff, so like I have an idea of some that I want to include, but I want to make sure that I get everybody else's opinion as well. But yeah, so hopefully if I stream later tonight, you'll stop on by. Otherwise, thanks for watching. If you want access to my picks, look at Patreon. It's $10 a month. If you have $10 a month and you appreciate the content that I put out, I do give a little bit of incentive for people who join Patreon. I give access to my sheet that I have, but really the most important thing about Patreon is supporting the channel and supporting the content that I produce, not necessarily like trading money for information. So like I do try to give as much information as I can, but it's really mostly about supporting the channel and supporting myself. So I really do appreciate the support. It's been growing pretty amazingly so far, and I'm very excited and encouraged by the support. So thanks again to everybody who's supporting me right now, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.